every time he goes to give a speech, it's written for him because he hasn't got a clue what's going on. So it's written for him. So he reads it all the time. The first one he reads is different from the one he reads next time because the information in the first one was wrong, was misled. And then he has to correct him. Sometimes it doesn't even bother correcting it because it's too late. The damage is already done because the statements are not coming from him.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Grace. And greetings to all of you. And welcome to our Pan-African Reading Club. We are doing the review of the book, Defeating a Dictator by Dr. George Ayittey. And at this particular moment, we are in chapter 5. We are looking at the fall of the despotic regime. How do they start coming down? Because you see, Dr. Ayittey says sometimes the system undergoes self-destruction. So no matter how a dictator think of safeguarding themselves, sometimes the system just fall internally. And here we are trying to look at the element that will be pushing forward our conversation. We'll start with the decay of the state institutions, because that's also something that's bred during the despotic regime's leadership. So once again, permit me to recognize the presence of members with us, Sister Amma, Sister the King, Sister Grace, Brother the King, Sister Grace, and Sawindok. Welcome to our reading today and our discussion for this Pan-African Reading Club. We are looking at the dictators and how we have them fall. But all along, we'll be doing a review, a conversation across the continent before we start our recording, issues on election, leadership, what's going on, what's coming up. And yes, we can still have that conversation as we continue our reading. But as usual, maybe we do a reading, then we can go to that conversation. But if there's any comment before we start the reading, we also appreciate that. Sister Amma?
Yes?
Do you have anything to say before we start our reading, or anything you want to come up on before we start our reading?
Thank you. Excuse me. No, I don't have anything to say at the moment, no.
Okay, thank you. So we are intending to read 3 sections, but I don't know if we will be able to finish. But let's first of all start by the decay in the state institutions. And I'll read this first part, and probably the next portion will read the next subheading when we come to that conversation. Then maybe we have the third person who will read the third subheading. But let me read this first one first. It said that the despot is not elected. That's very important. But he needs supporters. So he acquires them by dispensing patronage and by appealing to tribal solidarity from his other kinsmen. So he rewards them with assigning them positions in key institutions and corporations. Tenure of office and promotions are based not on competence and merit, but rather on the allegiance to the president, ethnicity, or sycophancy. Now, very quickly, professionalism and efficiency vanish from institutions such as civil service, even the judiciary, the parliament, and even the police. If that happens, then there's low productivity, ineptitude, and venality pervade these institutions. The rot is not confined to one area, but seeps into the all areas of government. So now parliaments become a joke. Police are on the take, and security forces protect the despot and the ruling bandits, not the people. And the judiciary is now tainted with the trials that are settled on by bribes, you see. Even though the state soaks up scarce resources through heavy taxation, it even fails to generate economic growth or even deliver basic social services. And the performance of the state-owned enterprises in the developing world has been worse than scandalous. In fact, nowhere in the third world has their performance been superior to that of privately owned businesses, for the simple reason that those state-owned enterprises do not face market discipline. They often overstaff with party functionaries and rank up losses upon losses, which are covered with budgetary subversions, and they are often ridden with gross inefficiency. There is waste, graft, and incompetence. Yet in Venezuela, Chavez seeks to create more of this state control arbitraries. In August 2010, the prosecutors and the police raided a stockbroking company after Finance Minister Ali Rodriguez Aroc decided to place 4 commercial banks under state control. But the President Hugo Chavez issued a study warning that he was prepared to nationalize the entire private banking system in the country, if that were necessary. Now, government-owned utilities companies rarely deliver safe or even clean drinking water, electricity, and sanitation, let alone market products. People become disgusted and turn away from the state sectors because it cannot provide even the most basic services, even such as education or even healthcare. As they withdraw from the state sector, they take their taxes with them or evade them altogether by bribing tax officials. The government then discovers that despite steep hikes in excise taxes and import duties, as well as the introduction of vampire taxes, which is value addition taxes, VAT, its revenue still cannot cover expenditures. So the central bank is then ordered to cover the deficits by printing new currency, or even fueling inflation, or even changing the currency altogether, thereby robbing people of their lives' savings. People begin to scoff at the pious utterance of the vampire ruling elites regarding probity, accountability, unity, hard work, and sacrifice, as the statements reek of insouciant hypocrisy. As Richard Sandbrook notes, that political institutions such as the presidency, the parliament, the party, even the judiciary, lose whatever public esteem they commanded. Bureaucratic institutions also become ineffective and lose their technical rationality. So nepotism and patronage swell the bureaucratic ranks with the incompetents and time savers. Those civil servants who are competent and honest are demoralized by the graft, fraud, and theft of public property. So indiscipline and lassitude paralyze the bureaucratic apparatus. So administrative capability deteriorates. Institutionalized bureaucratic norms and practices are flouted. Simple routine tasks that will normally require a day's work by a civil servant takes weeks if they are ever accomplished. So accounting controls are often non-existent. And 2 departments within the same government ministry may not even know what the other one is doing. The capacity to execute plan, to implement reforms, or even to manage the budgets collapses. The economy suffers in the process. So economic development projects are delayed or are never completed at all. So that's our first reading of the first section. And now we invite members maybe to put more input what they want to share their thinking, any comment they want to make on that, any observation, or anything you want to say about that reading. You're always free to share your thinking. So let's start with that. Who is willing to give some comment on this text? I'm going back to where we started.
Brother Begin,
Yes, Awindok.
what is meant by venality?
How is that?
and lassitude.
Oh,
Big words.
sister,
I want to start using them. I want to start
sister,
using them in the street.
Sister Amma, will you help Sawindok on that? Venality and lassitude.
Venality is in the very first paragraph, line 246. The eighth line that starts with low productivity, ineptitude, and venality pervades these state institutions.
Sister Amma, will you help Sawindok with the meaning of venality?
Whereabouts is it? Can
The
you
eighth
take us?
line,
Wait a minute. All I'm going to do
line
is
number 8.
venality.
Line number 8 of the first paragraph.
I have highlighted that.
Low productivity, ineptitude, and venality. Venality refers to the condition of being willing to be bribed or to prostitute one's talents for money. So it's basically, they're talking about bribery.
Oh,
Thank you.
Pervade these institutions. So they're basically saying that the institutions are dominated by people willing to be bribed or
I like that. I like that one. Prostituting one's knowledge and ability.
prostituting generally, because maybe they don't even have talent and ability, but they're just prostituting. Prostituting services which people are desperate for. And what was the other
Oh.
word you wanted to look?
Sawindok, the other one?
The other one is lassitude. I'm trying to look for it where it is. It got lost. But it's after Hugo Chavez.
After Hugo Chavez.
Yeah.
Lassitude. Oh, it was up. Let me go up. I remember that where lassitude was.
Okay. No, you don't remember.
Who's
I'm sorry.
But it's
Lassitude.
LASS.
Yeah, I just want to see the context as well. Have you found it?
No, I'm trying to look at it because I think the context will also be very important.
Yeah.
Okay, let me continue looking for that. But I also came across lassitude somewhere. Was there any other one?
Yeah, no, I only have those two.
Okay. So let me look at that. Okay. And did you have any other extra comments as we try to work on this one?
Not me.
Albatrosses. Did we read that?
Sawindok, do you have any additional comment on the text?
No. Thank you.
So it means you are okay with the text as it is. Does it either reflect the reality or there's anything that's out of reality?
Everything is within the context of reality.
But I wanted to know when they say that.
Well,
When they say that,
what I'll say about the text is, so is the writer arguing for private ownership? Is he saying private ownership is the most efficient way of things happening? Because
what
that
he's
I
saying
disagree
here,
with.
no, what he's saying here is actually saying why the public also fails. Because you see, when he says that people are appointed on nepotism and then there's incompetency that comes in, so that incompetence breed what you call now the failure of public institutes, especially the parastatals, the government parastatals. So you realize that they fail automatically because it's designed. The leadership of those parastatals are not that professional enough, you see. So in a way, it's trying to compare public and private, but it's trying to bring reasons that
Yeah, but
why public
it's a
fails.
very narrow argument. Not all public owned companies and facilities throughout the world fell. It's a very, very narrow argument, just like not all private facilities succeed.
But I think it's going extra mile to give reasons why
Brother
they can
Pigeon.
fail. Yes.
While we are there, lassitude is in the last line of the quote by Richard Sandbrook.
Okay. Where can we see it, please?
In
Where is it?
discipline and lassitude rises.
Oh, lassitude. I thought you said
The last
lassitude.
line of that quote.
Lassitude.
It's just the African accent. It's just the African accent in it. But that's what I wanted to say.
Lassitude.
What did you hear? Did I say?
I thought you said latitude. You said lassitude.
Oh.
Even when I say it, it sounds like latitude to me. So lassitude is a state of physical or mental weariness or lack of energy. So indiscipline and low energy paralyzes the bureaucratic apparatus.
So
thank you.
Okay.
So the reason why I'm challenging it is because the biggest driver for private enterprise is profit. That's what drives most private enterprise, is spending as little money and making as much money as they can. Healthcare.
No.
So I'm challenging this whole thing.
Yeah, personally, I don't equally support the element of what you call privatization. But you see, what he's trying to bring here, like look at the performance of a state. He said that the performance of a state-owned enterprise in developing worlds have been worse than scandalous. In fact, nowhere in the third world has their performance been superior to that of private-owned business. Of course, we are bringing the element because of either the profit, but he says because simply they do not face market discipline. He's bringing the discipline here.
No, I totally disagree. Neither work. How does private enterprise work in the so-called third world? Well, we need to define what we mean by the whichever service working. That's the starting point. So
now you see, as he goes ahead,
what he means by the service working, or the
you see,
working.
He's saying they are often overstaffed, and they are overstaffed with party functionaries.
The public, but what is the definition of what is a successfully working enterprise in the private sector? So take something like water or electricity. How is that run successfully? What's the definition of it being successful? That's what I'm asking. So for instance, my definition of a successful health sector is that everybody who is ill can access health. That's my definition. Not just those who can afford it. If it's just those who can afford it, like we were talking about earlier on, what's the definition of a successful education sector? That every child gets access to education. Private enterprise doesn't guarantee that. Private education just guarantees those who've got the money get access to education, whilst the majority of children don't.
That is true, sister. And you see, that's why I'm saying that when he's saying, for example, the government-owned utility companies rarely deliver even a safe or drinking clean water, electricity, or even sanitation. For example, you have a parastatal that deals with the electricity, and they don't end up delivering electricity. Sometimes they don't even deliver safe water to every individual or even sanitation. And even he goes ahead to say that, let alone market products, people become disgusted and turn away from state sectors because it cannot provide even the most basic services like even healthcare or education. The issue here is that what I'm feeling is trying to read from is not actually to condemn public entities or public parastatals, but rather to point at some levels of what caused them to fail. Not that they don't have professionals, not that they don't have good doctors, not that they don't have anything that's needed, but at the end of the day, there's no just both government intention to build them. Look, for example, if you go in a village and look for even a public hospital in the village, you'll not even find any medicine in that place. You'll not even find even to see a nurse sometimes might be an issue. And you realize that I think it is intention of the government to make them fail so that other people can move to private where other officials of the government can make profit from that private. Because you realize that the government has a public hospital in a village and there's a private hospital. You go to the public hospitals, you find there's no medicine, there's no gloves, there's no doctor, or blah, 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 so many things going on. You move to the private one, which is even sometimes owned by the local member of parliament, who should actually be questioning and pushing for this public hospital to have required instruments. But in this public hospital here,
Brother Pigeon,
there's everything else. Yes.
our
Yes,
leaders are crazy. Yes, our leaders are crazy. That's one thing. Whose responsibility is to provide health care? Is the responsibility of government.
Government.
Whose responsibility is it to provide education? Is the government on behalf of the people?
Yeah,
now, these private schools and private hospitals in some countries like mine are even subsidized by government. Why don't they take that subsidy and equip the state facilities? They can't do that because they own the hospital, they own the private school. And we are still allowing these crazy people to run us, and we are just good at complaining. Why this, what you're why pointing, that, why...
No, yes. Sawindo, I think what you're pointing is more of the spirit of this.
Before you come there, the private hospital and the private schools will be better equipped because they are getting this subsidy from government. It's government money. Go ahead, Brother Pigeon. Sorry.
What about the Malawi situation, whereby the hospitals have almost nothing? The hospitals are run by doctors who have private clinics. So they divert people to their clinics to go and pay. And then the country itself, government officials or people in all these parastatals and whatever, when we have a scheme that private individuals will pay to that scheme, but government individuals have a benefit that says when they're not well, they go to a South African hospital or an Indian hospital. They don't go to the hospital within. So where would the interest be to upgrade our hospitals? And so that the saga goes on. They need to ban this. Also, all the money being taken to South Africa and India and all these places, United Kingdom, France, could build something within. So, like we're saying, we're just run by a bunch of whatevers that have no interest in the rest of us.
I think what Sister Amma was raising was also very important a bit. Of course, I have read through this author sometimes. He also advocates for private enterprises than parastatals. He advocates more of a capitalist thinking if you look along some of his thoughts. But true to this text is that he's trying to provide some of the reason why some of the public facilities fail. And these reasons are just actually intentional reasons. These are just what is meant. It's just a structured reason. So go put there somebody, ensure that it doesn't work so that you come to my private and work. And let me tell you, for example, the crazy one in Kenya. The former president decided
Are they also crazy there? Are they also crazy
no, let me tell
there?
you. Let me tell you.
I thought it's only the Namibians who are crazy.
No, let me give you an example. The former president, while he was in presidency, decides to build a private road, not now hospital, a private road on a government land. So they build a road from the airport directly to the city and heading straight to the UN headquarters, where the rich people are staying. And what they do, the president's family open a company in France or in London. Then they say that they have come with this new thing they are calling PPP, the new way of taking over public services by saying it's a public-private partnership. That new thing is now all over, PPP. Now, this company comes from France to say that they will be building the road in Kenya, but will not be paying them. So they won't use our tax to build the road. So they're building the road. But what happens is that they will be running that road as we pay for the road. So if you want to use it's called now expressway. If you want to use the expressway, either you have a vehicle, you pay some certain amount so that you can go faster. And then when they're doing the expressway, they did it on top of the old road that was Mombasa-Nairobi highway. So it's up on top of the main road. And anybody who gets at that, they have what you call toll stations. So you pay with your vehicle, and then your vehicle moves in on public land, public road. Down on that road is a free road that was initially there. And they never even cared to improve this road because they affected that road enough by building their bigger road up there. And they say that they made an agreement that that company should run that road, I don't know, for the next 30 years, then they'll leave it to us. Surely, we realized later on that the company that came from France was actually shareholders were the former president. So it was his company registered abroad, then they let them come with a white man here, say that you want to build a road. Then you as a president sign it, and then let that white man to work, but the money still goes to your family. So we are paying your family to use a road. That's the extent they've reached, a private road. And now this President Ruto is now encouraging more of those private roads. So government is saying that you're going to build a road, but it's going to be a private road. So you pay for it if you want to go very fast. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that the failure of government institutions, parastatals, are intentional. It's not that they lack professionals. It's not that they lack the capacity to be good, but they just meant intentionally to fail so that maybe people can move to private entities. And those private suppliers are the government suppliers. What I always tell my people is that they are converting a government into a private entity, something that should be public, because they use your money and they cannot provide that. So that's what I want to say. But Sister Amma, can you come in, please, on this as we try to maybe... Sister Grace, do you want to come in?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay, Sister Amma, please come in, Sister Amma. Hello, Sister Amma, can you hear me? Okay, Sawindok, can you hear me? I want to confirm.
I can hear you, Brother Pigeon. I can hear you.
Now, I wanted to get the idea from the thinking of Sister Amma on this, then maybe we can get to the next reading. Sister Amma? Okay. Now, you see what this author is trying to write in this paragraph of government-owned utilities. They say that when people now walk away because they cannot provide basic education and healthcare, the government then discovers that despite steep hikes in excess duty and import duties, as well as introduction of VAT, its revenue still cannot cover expenditures. So they turn to what? Printing more money. Then what they lead to? They fuel inflation and even changing currency, which my country changed the currency towards the election. I don't know if your country has also changed the currency. And they're claiming that they're coming with a new law to change the currency. But in reality, they want to rob you your savings.
What do you mean by changing the currency?
Now, like in Kenya, what happened is that I think it was towards the election of 2017, the government came with a new currency. The whole currency as it is. Okay, it is a 20 shillings, it's a 1,000 shillings, but with a new design of a paper. So where there was an image of a president, now we are putting animals and wild animals there. So there's a new generation of the currency. And they are telling people that we are giving you 3 months to ensure that you return your currency for this new one.
okay. So the old currency is being replaced.
Yeah, they're telling you return it to the government so that you give you a new currency.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. No, with us, they just print new currencies, but then the old ones are also kept in circulation. They are just as valid as the new one until they all systematically go back to the treasury.
But you see what they're trying to do. It's
And
like they're
ours,
trying to cover the deficits.
yeah, and
So go ahead.
ours usually is just one note. Maybe this time they introduce a $30 note. Another time they introduce a $50 note or something like that. They don't replace the whole currency, so to say. Ours has
No,
mostly been just additions, new notes, new currencies.
no.
I have
Ours
changed.
was,
Can you hear me?
yes, it's Chisomo.
Okay, I've changed my devices because the other one was just freezing. Yeah.
Have you also been
So
affected with the change of currencies?
no, we haven't changed any currencies. I suppose they do change the note now and again. They do change the passport now and again just to make more money. And so I was listening to one YouTube's a Malawian YouTube when they had a guy who was explaining the system we had when Kamuzubanda was the president and what has happened since the democratic presidents took over. So when Kamuzu was around, we had everything we need, access to everything we need. And then when he was thrown out by the democratic one, he was relying on all these IMFs and all whatever's the Mzungu things. Oh, we'll help you if you privatize this, if you privatize that, if you privatize this. So we lost all the institutions that we had. I don't know how anybody can sell what you've got to get money from Europe. You're selling what you've already got to get money from Europe to then build something similar. I don't know whether the intention was to build something similar or just sell all these institutions so the government doesn't run any of them. I don't know what the logic was, but since then, we have nothing left. Whatever was left, this current government has also destroyed everything. I don't know whether it was the same instruction from MIF to then get rid of what's left. So everything is being imported. Everything.
But you see, that privatization of institution, I think, started the IMF. I think Sister Amma can tell us this. There was something called structural adjustment program.
Uh-huh.
So
That's the one.
yeah, so IMF come in to start dictating for you. They think that parastatal are a waste of government or the citizens' money. In fact, even President Ruto actually decided to close some of the parastatal and even merge some just last year. Was it last year? Yeah. In early this year, he closed some of the parastatal, some even he was selling, but people moved to court to say that you cannot sell our parastatal. Because what the people realized is that he wanted to sell the parastatals, then he became the buyer through proxies. So you have a decree to declare that you are selling this parastatal, then use your proxies to buy that parastatal so that it's private and then run it perfectly. Then say that all those things that make sense. And you appoint your people to those parastatals so that they fill that parastatal and then you say that it doesn't make profit, it's making losses. So let's sell it out. That's what they've been doing.
So the guy was explaining that the formula then was any foreigner who comes to invest in the country, 51% is owned by Malawi, the state, and or the state or whoever, and the investor only gets 49. So, which means they were monitoring everything that was going on with these foreign investments, and maybe that's why they were successful. But when they were told to sell everything, even the investors left the country, and these were sold to third parties. I understand they were all coming from the Arab world or whatever, because he was Muslim, so he was more. I suppose because once they told him to sell, they didn't even give him what he wanted. So he turned to the East for, to the Arab world for help. And today we haven't been able, to this day, we haven't been able to recover. It's just getting worse.
But you see, that's part of the element of this. When I was talking about the change of currency, in our constitution of Kenya, of course, they said that we wanted to do away with the images of people in our currency. Because really some of the currencies in various countries have the images of the presidents. So when they were designing the new constitution, which in Kenya, which came around 2010, so we were doing away with the colonial constitution, but I think we still borrowed some more of what was still in that colonial to move it over to the new constitution. Then we adopted this American system of Senate, a county, assembly, a governors, and parliamentary system, the rest. There was a clause that was saying that we will actually uh, uh, do away with the images of people in our currencies. So then they were silent about it. And then when it was almost towards election, there was an issue that there was a project that was given by China to Kenya. And then this current president, who was deputy by then, and the former president, had a disagreement a bit. And I think it was said that the current president had stolen a lot of money and stashed it somewhere while he was a deputy president. So the president could not access that money. And then the president just came up one day and said, very random, that we are giving you 3 months, we are going to change the currency. So ensure that all the money you have, either send it to the bank, nearby bank, for changing. What they wanted is that so that they could track how much you have. So what happened is that bring the new currency, the old currency you're having, so that you'll be getting a new currency of the same amount you have. And we're giving you 3 months to change that. So they were trying to either for people to give in money so that they can know where you got the money from. But the president, the former president who is current, the former deputy who is current, the president now, was very wise enough. So he used some of his proxies, some money sent to Uganda, some went to Sudan, and then they were changing it back again to the normal currency. So some was said that it was in his house. You see, some of these politicians even stay with the cash money in their house. They don't take to bank. So they have a pile of boxes of money in their houses they don't take to bank. So that is what happened immediately. And then they changed their whole currencies in this country. So they changed from the lowest to the highest currency. All of them were changed in 3 months. So you see, this is still also being mentioned here that sometimes it's not actually for any procedures, but just one of the ways to try to rob people some of their money, you see. So it's part of their tactics. But I want to point out something. They're saying that in this quote that by Richard, they're saying that those civil servants who are competent and honest are demoralized by the graft or even fraud or theft of public property. So you see, is that most of people in public institutions do not even have the sight to go and work. You go to public office, you just get somebody hanging his coat there and he's not around. He's nowhere. So you just take it very casually as that. They're not committed to work in any public whatever. And because they know they have the security of their job cannot be done away at the time. In fact, by 2 p.m. or 3 p.m., government officers are gone. You don't find them anywhere. They are already gone. Or even look at parliamentarians. They go to the parliament just to register, clock in, then they go to the nearby hotel. So they drink tea there and make stories. They are not in parliament. Sometimes parliament is postponed because there's no quorum. And you wonder, the parliamentarians only meet 3 times in a week, only 3 times in a week, but they still cannot attend those 3 times.
In my
So
country,
some of these things are intentional. It's not that the government cannot work, but they're intentional.
In my country, the government officer will not leave the office, hang his jacket and leave. Why? Because everybody who walks through that door looking for a service will have to pay before they can help you. So leaving the office means you're losing money. You sit there day in, day out. Order your lunch. They don't even go for lunch. Order their lunch. It's brought in posh lunch because they're making a lot of money. So they'll be eating throughout lunch, and you guys will be walking in for help. And you have to pay for whatever it is you're making inquiries for. So that has become a private office running private business out of government property.
You pay for government services?
You do. They cannot help you without paying.
Is it a legal fee or is it a bribe?
No, you pigeon are charging me.
That's a legal fee.
Yeah. Yeah,
No, it's
I
not a
have to
legal
pay you
fee.
as pigeon. I'm not paying the government. I'm paying you. So you don't leave your office because you lose out when people come in. So if I say to you, for example, you work in the lands department, I want to see my file, or I want to do certain things. Oh, it depends on how much you've got. That's the first statement that will come from them. Oh, it depends on how much you've got. It depends on how much you can pay.
So can
That's
I
how the
clarify?
discussion
Is
starts.
it a bribe then? It's a bribe.
Yes.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, people are being made to pay for free services. So Africans being Africans, they just feel it's normal. So when you complain to people, but no, that's how it works. You just have to pay. So everybody has accepted it. You walk into an office, they look at you, and then you say, oh, I'm coming from England. Then you get a diaspora charge. If you're Mzungu, you get a Mzungu charge. There's a video that's circulating about one Mzungu that was stopped at a roadblock in Malawi. And he's being asked to pay $1,000. And he's saying, $1,000 for what? That's the rate. He was told that's the rate for foreigners. When he was stopped at a roadblock and he went all the way to court, they produced him document. And that particular fee, the Mzungu has to pay in dollars when all the other fees are in kwacha. And in kwacha, $1,000 is millions of kwacha. Just for a road traffic offense.
That is interesting. Very interesting. I think in Kenya,
it's hard living out.
What they did in Kenya, they brought what you call digital services. So government has what you call an e-citizen. Electronic citizen. In electronic citizen, you can access all services of government and pay government rate directly through government account. If there's any rate that is charged anywhere. So maybe if you want to access land, there's a fee that you pay and you pay to the government directly, maybe to get any land records you want. So when you go to the offices, you just produce the receipts to show that either if it was a charges, for example, if you want a fingerprint for police clearance, this so-called good conduct for police clearance, you pay online through the government portal, you do all your information, you book everything else, you pay through the government portal, the government gets you the receipt, you download your receipts, you go to the station of the police officers with the receipts and the form. So basically they just take your fingerprint and you wait for your results. That's the same thing done with the passports. You pay online, you do everything online, you just go take fingerprints.
No, to us, with everything is manual for the same reason, like you're saying. It's intentional. So everything is manual. If you walk into the lands department office, the lands commissioner, he has no computer on his desk. You go to all the offices, no one has a computer on his desk. Oh, I'm looking for plot number, blah, blah. They'll start flicking all these papers. And imagine papers that have been there for how many years? They are all torn and dirty and they can't find this, they can't find that, they can't find this. Government after government, nobody has bothered to sort out the digitalization. For something important as land, they can't find the plot, they can't find the paperwork, they can't find the map, they don't know where this plot is.
Okay. Anybody wants to comment on that previous paragraph before we move to the next reading? Since things are very worse on the ground. Okay, Sister yes,
Brother
Sawino?
Pigeon.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Sister Grace,
Mm.
when are you going to take the reins in Malawi?
The problem is, I find if you go into, I don't know, that's just my belief. If you go into an environment like that, they will frustrate you because it's now a system. It's now a system, a settled system that an individual like me cannot break. It has to be somebody high up who is like a Magufuli who says enough is enough. We've got one guy who is talking about it, but already everybody is like, nah, 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 nah. The same guy I was talking about, the young guy, the 29-year-old guy. Those are the kind of things they are trying to address. But people will just ignore them, they will boo them, because everybody is benefiting from this kind of behavior. Because it's not now just the government officials. Individuals are doing that to each other because that's the way you earn money. It's so sad. So something you could get
Brother
for
Pigeon.
free, something you could get for £2, you get for 1 million.
Okay. Sawino.
When is our ideal Africa coming?
What is
By
our
2060, our ideal Africa. By 2060, we will be so exhausted, no energy.
And you
The
see,
Africa
2060.
the Africa 2063.
that one is also
By
another
2060.
scam.
By 2063, we will be too exhausted to enjoy our
Oh,
unified
but
and
we'll be
developed
dead. We'll
Africa.
be dead. The people in 2063 will not be interested in the way we run the country. They'll
Yeah,
have
no,
their
forget
own way
about it.
of doing things.
So when is our Africa coming? When are we going to deliver our Africa?
When we decide to deliver it, when we decide. So when are we going to decide?
When are we going to take that decision?
Anytime you wish to go
I
ahead
will
and take
say
the decision.
2030. I will say 2030.
No,
Mm.
I will say
the Sahel
2030.
has taken. Listen, the Sahel has taken the decision. The South Africa has been having PAC and Malema for those years. They have not taken the decision. The other country like Botswana probably elected somebody better. Maybe we are saying they're taking the decision. So it doesn't have a time limit as long as the citizens decide to wake up. You see what's
Yeah,
going
just
on
like
No,
in Senegal.
set a time
Botswana,
frame. We
Namibia.
must.
Is it Botswana, Namibia, and Zambia have decided to do something together? They
We
are
must
there's a
set a time frame. Just
no.
like
Who
they
are you
have
setting
put
the time frame for?
2063 for ourselves,
Now you see the
not for
problem
somebody
is
else,
when you
for
don't
ourselves.
when you realize that changes of this magnitude require the citizens to work together. Because getting a new leadership, either in democratic process like what happened in Botswana, is the general consciousness of the citizens of Botswana to come up and say that we are electing this guy and don't want this guy. Having an election like in Senegal is an entire consciousness of the citizens of Senegalese saying that we are not going to elect this person, we are doing this. So if we say 2030, the next thing you need to put is how are you going to attain the mass consciousness? How programs do you have? How much are you having to push the program? Because democratic processes that requires changes requires the citizens. Unless if you're talking of military coups, which majority do not require citizens, but if you're talking of democratic changes to elect people, sometimes it doesn't even require civic education. Some citizens may decide, maybe you have to check with Botswana, what happened to them for them to elect the guy? Was it a mass consciousness? Was it education? What happened? Because when you have to know what it takes to have what you want, then now you can tell when do you want it. So you need first of all to know what does it take for you to have what you want, what resources, what everything else that's needed. And then now you can say, okay, if this is what it takes, then I can make it by this time. So you plan with what you know you want. But if you just say that we are going to 2063 and you say that you are silencing gun in 2020 and today people are still fighting in Congress 2025, then basically you're putting things in papers that you cannot do.
Brother Pigeon, the people have reached a certain fairly high level of consciousness. They are just waiting for somebody brave to come up, and they will follow. They know exactly what they want, but they are just cowards. And us, we are also cowards. We can't take that lead. We are waiting on institutions, democratic institutions, and this and that. We can't take bold steps and talk boldly to our people.
In my country,
Okay.
I see
I
a
have
change.
2 hands that are up. Sister Chisomo,
Aye,
if you allow me to take the 2 hands back, then I come back to you.
okay.
Okay. Brother the King?
Yeah. So I interviewed a young guy some time ago who was in the Polytechnic about 4 years ago, and he said to me that I asked him that with the current situation in the country, does he think they will be able or will be able to change the narrative within the country? And he looked at me and told me that, look, there is no way that will happen because they, the young ones, are already part of the system, the very system that is destroying what we are. So I was like, what is that system? He said the education system. And it is true. Upon interviewing I interviewed other students around the universities. And I realized that they are really not going to do. By the time you complete university, your mindset is not geared towards, the change. Rather, you have become part of it. So if this has to change, we have to now work with the education system. The lecturers, what are they really conscientized that this is the direction we are going? And as a country, we need to educate our younger ones. Before this meeting, I think one of the sisters asked whether the younger ones, whether they are, I think I've forgotten the question, but it has to do with something like this. And you realize that they are really far away from what we are talking about currently. They are really far away from it. So if even we should say that, okay, by 2030, we are taking this action, what is the assurance that this youth will be able to follow suit as it is? And they are in the majority. So whatever hard work we do becomes useless. So in this case, what practical efforts are we putting in to make sure that these younger ones are raised consciously to be able to achieve some of the things we are mentioning over here?
Thank you for that question. Sister Ama, then I go to Sister Chisomo.
Yeah, I just wanted to re-emphasize what you said, and it links to what was just said, is that in order for things to change, and what we need to think about is how we change things, is there needs to be mass education, consciousness raising. I don't know what you call it, but otherwise, we need to think about some of the solutions. Otherwise, are we just coming to moan about the problems with no thought about how these things can be changed? And they can be changed, because in other parts of Africa, some parts of Africa, change is happening, and change is a process, but it involves, at the end of the day, if we do not invest, the wider we, I mean, not just us in this group, time and energy into people, and not just people who are going into universities, but I'm talking about people, all people, those who are in the villages, those who are working on the farms, taxi drivers, nurses, teachers, shop workers, market women, mechanics, everybody. Because at the end of the day, my belief is that we should be building and developing our countries for the benefit of the majority of ordinary people. And that's why for me, private enterprise never works, because the driver for private enterprise is profit. And how do you maximize profit? You minimize the amount you spend and you charge as much as you can for something. So
Yeah,
we need
but
to think how we make things work. And some of it is, you're in Kenya, quoting Ngugi wa Thiong'o, decolonizing the mind. Malcolm X, not Malcolm X, sorry, and Bob Marley, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. We have to believe, first of all, that things can change, and we have to start putting in place those things to change the system. And it's not one person can do it. It has to be an army of people.
Okay.
Hammer's finished.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you.
so the private hospitals, yeah, there are some challenges. When you go to the government hospital, obviously you realize doctors really want to do well. They want to really work without any limitation. Yet, in a situation where you have a political executive who employs those who are not merit to be in that position to work with the doctor, automatically the doctor will not be able to deliver the way he or she really wants to deliver. And not only that, when the doctor try or other forms of people, disciplinary committee try to insist on the right thing to be done, because it is a government institution, you cannot actually do they throw out your suggestion or your recommendation. Then at the end of the day, you're left like, okay, so people really need to be treated. And here we are playing politics with the public sector. So automatically the private sector comes into what? To save the day. Over here in Ghana, when you go to the private hospital, you are guaranteed that you will get that good healthcare you're looking for. But when you go to the public sector, it is not like that. Like 37, for instance, 37 used to be the pride of the country, but now you can't even go to that hospital because of the situation we find ourselves in currently. So sometimes the private hospitals are helping, not because of the that they don't want to do the right work in the government with these doctors. It's because the system itself is making it difficult for them to operate the way they are supposed to operate as a public sector. So sometimes the private systems also come to help. The question is, how do we make sure that some of these bureaucracies are put to stop? That is one thing we should be looking at.
Sister Chisomo?
Yeah,
Sister
no,
Chisomo?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, in Malawi, since the last controversy about the last elections, the way they happened, the politicians then and the opposition then, the judges, the whole system colluded and made people believe that it was a genuine relearn. But now people have understood that it wasn't. Because of social media, they are discussing these things. Do you remember this was said, but then this is now being said, this happened. So education amongst the individual, the general public is flowing. They tried to stop people from accessing social media, but the whole thing went to court, and they said no, they can't stop people publishing stuff on social media. So that seems to be working, and that's why they are now saying we want the previous leader. But whether the previous leadership, I haven't heard them talk about improving things the way we're discussing it, or the way the public is discussing it, to stop, because the main problem is the corruption, which is theft, which is robbery. And there's one particular leader who is the vice president to the current president, but from a different party. So now that it's election time and he too is standing, he is now saying, I've worked in the government, I've seen how the government is run, and I've seen all the thieves. The government is full of thieves, and he got into trouble for saying that. How are you saying that when you're in government? Yeah, I'm telling you. Is there anything wrong in me telling you what I've seen since I've worked in the government? So what he's saying is every single party that has left its own thieves. So these thieves will sabotage the next government. They will sabotage the next government. They will sabotage because in my country we change parties almost at every election. So everybody has left their own thieves in there. So they'll sabotage the next and sabotage the next and sabotage the next. But it's full of thieves. That's basically what he's saying. So people are now picking up on that message to say we need to clean that up first. Otherwise, nothing works. So on the ground, information is flowing, but with no power to actually change anything unless the people or they vote for this new guy. But he's too far away to be voted. People have made up their mind; they want to go back to the leader before. But whether he's going to do what people are expecting of him, I doubt it. He's aging. He's now 85. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen after.
85, you say?
Yes.
Hey, too old. He needs.
And people are saying even if you have to carry him on the stretcher, we are still going to elect him.
Oh my goodness me.
Because they haven't got any, they cannot see any other options. Like the other guy says, they are all thieves. So the only person they believe in is this old guy. And because, so I'm trying to understand what's going on, and I'm thinking, majority of the population is young people. Almost 90%. If you see all these rallies, it's just full of young people. I don't know if they're going to vote, or maybe they never thought of voting, but now they think it's important. They're turning out in all these meetings in huge numbers, supporting people who are advocating for change. And these are young people, probably with no parents, probably with no people to look up to, and they just look up to this guy to say, they actually call him dad. The whole country calls him dad. So he's just got this father figure that people just look up to. As to what he's going to do for them, at this point, they don't care. They just want these people to go back to where we were. As to whether, but he's got these crooked people around him as well. So I don't know how that's going to work, but he's 85 at the moment. And people were saying, oh, is he going to come out to campaign? Is he even going to be able to stand for 30 minutes? But he did, and he spoke. His mind is still sane. So I don't know where we're going with all this. And but I don't hear any leader talking about digitizing things. I don't hear any leader talking about the thieves that the other one is talking about. Everybody is mute because they've all stolen. They can't say anything about anything.
Sister Chisomo, I think we started a bit late and we may not be able to read the next subtopics. But I think one of the key things which we are saying is that if you have to conscientize the masses, you must be conscious yourself. And I'll honestly tell you that at the time I was running for president in my country before I joined consciousness and starting exposing myself to this, I don't think I was that conscious Pan-African enough. I cannot say I've reached the level of consciousness required, but I was not that conscious enough. And the fact that some people either get degrees and PhDs and are called professors still doesn't mean they're conscious enough. And one of the few things sometimes we find in most of our country, when I posted the quote by Marcus Garvey today, where Marcus Garvey says that you should not try out for change, but vote for change. Many people, of course, criticize me a lot. And this is what I want to bring back to what's going on in the continent and what we are discussing. If you read at what you have been reading here about the decay or the fall in the government institution, it is very clear that the whole government system is captured. Very clear. And the failure of government is actually structured failure. It's intentional. And the reason why it is intentional, we don't know. But some of us also know. Because when people don't consider professionalism, when people don't consider competency or merit, when people are appointed in government because they're girlfriends of the presidents, they're family members of the presidents, they're this and this, really, how do you expect that government to perform? You see, even the author is saying parliament becomes a joke. And one thing I've been telling my fellow Gen Zs as we move to the mass consciousness is that first is that even majority of us who are fighting for change are not conscious enough. The fact that you're saying Ruto must go does not mean you are conscious enough. You see? And the second thing is that the ability to reach the masses is very important. I do say that when you're pushing for a democratic revolution, which means, let me say, you want to use the masses to vote for a change, it requires more than just being vocal enough. Because majority of the citizens, as Sister Amma, I don't know, Sister Grace was saying, majority of the citizens do not watch mainstream media. They are not in TikTok. They are not in mainstream television. Some of them do not even have a television. And I engage some of the activists in my country and ask them, now you have been in the struggle in the street for the last 13 years. If I go in my village and ask my mother if he knows you for the last 13 years, do you think they'll say they know you? They don't. And it's because majority of our activism or advocacy has been centered towards these capital cities for media publicity and gazette and blah, blah, blah. And then we think that with that publicity of the media and the city, now we make a change that is enough for the mass consciousness to wake up and go do the change. And sometimes when I ask also the people in South Africa about Malema thing, and some of them even say that we, the people outside Africa, outside South Africa, know Malema more than many people in South Africa. As much as it's been vocal, and I know Malema in Kenya, you know Malema in Malawi, but if you go to the villages in most of the places of the ghettos and most of the sites in South Africa, his message is not there. His agents are not down there to spread the same message. So you can have the few majority within the city and you can appear to be more popular enough, but that is not enough to make democratic change, which you call a democratic revolution. And one thing that we learned in the previous chapter is that the despots have the means. The means means that the government has even an assistant chief or a chief in your village. So they can even use a chief to send a message they want from the government. Are we structured enough in terms of the revolution to reach to the last level of the door? Do we have a village ambassador for change? So that if we are communicating the same communication, this village ambassador can engage the people in the village and share the change there. And sometimes you can claim other issues to do with the resources. Sometimes it's just structural organization. And the key thing is that Kwame Nkrumah say that the revolution belongs to the masses. And it's the mass consciousness that Sankara said. Sankara started a program called political orientation. He wanted to put everybody in Burkina Faso to be politically conscious. Because I'm telling you, no matter how sometimes we can be popular, if we cannot reach the mass, and if Brother Windhoek was saying, if we say we are making it by 2030, we must have a structure that ensures that the message we have in the capital is directly to the village, one-on-one with somebody in the village. Because very few people in a country actually access this so-called mainstream media. And one of the closest way we can use is actually local radio stations. Because the majority of the citizens in the country maybe listen to their mother tongue radio stations, which is very close. But these are things that need to be done if we have to attain what you call the mass consciousness. That is enough to make a change you want as a revolution. Because on the day of the ballot, the president has a chopper. The whole opposition or the government have a choppers. So they can fly for over 10 villages in one day. How about you, who is countering the narrative? You cannot even make from one county to the next county because you don't have the means. You see? So another thing I've been telling the young people in my country, if we think that we want the change and we are not ready to present ourselves as either member of county assembly, member of parliament, member of whatever, then how are we going to attain the same change? So most of us are activists, but when you tell them to lead, they don't want to lead. They want to remain activists, which means they just want to riot for change, but they don't want to be the change or vote the change. And these are a lot of things that we have to look at. But this statement and the reading we have today clearly depict to us that the entire system is rotten. And therefore, it's not only a one fix shoe that's going to fix everything in the system. There's all parastatals are intentionally going down. The whole agency, healthcare, is intentionally going down. And some of what they're doing, as this author is actually, I would say the author here is a capitalist. So as much as you're trying to vilify whatever you're trying to create to advance private sector, as Sister Amma has been saying, government is not in business of making money. Government is in the business of offering services, and they use our taxes to offer the services. But if they use our taxes and they're not even able to offer services, what they can offer is their salaries, their allowances, and their travelings, then we don't have business to entertain such government. So they make the basic services why we pay our taxes, not to work, so that we can move to private sectors so that we can pay them. This is the tragedy we have in the continent. So as much as we speak about this, we actually need to go deep to see how we can actualize it. And it's not a matter of giving ourselves just a timeline, but actually looking at what does it look like, what does it cost? Because they believe that in the election day, the citizens are making an informed choice. So who informed them to make that informed choice? So a person who is not informed cannot make an informed choice. So they make choice based on who gave them the money, who gave them the sugar, who is from which party, who is their tribesmate, and those are not informed choices because in fact they don't have the information. So how can they be informed? And to have an information, we have to reach out to them. So basically, that's what I'll say. Us bring this to an end. But let me hear your last comments on the reading we have today, particularly, and basically what you think about what needs to be done. Let me start with you, Sister Amma.
Yeah, it's been a very good discussion. I mean, at the end of the day, governments are there to benefit the people, the majority of people, the ordinary people, the most vulnerable people, the poorest people. So any system that is built has to focus on that. Corruption is rife in most parts of Africa. We have slightly different shades, but neo-colonial governments in most parts of Africa, and it's going to take serious organized effort and re-education to rid Africa of the different nations of the corrupt, inept people who are in government. And it means we have to invest time and energy into skilling, educating, organizing people. And somebody mentioned about, it might have been you, Pigeon, about an over focus on the cities and the metropolitan areas, and I agree. We need to go out into the villages, into the towns. We need to come off of social media. We need to talk in the languages that ordinary people speak, and talk about how to change things for the benefit of them. But why I'm so against private education, health, whatever, because it's only those who can afford it get it. You know, healthcare should be based on need. If somebody has an accident or a heart attack, their ability to get healthcare shouldn't be based on the ability of them or their family or friends to pay for it. If a woman is pregnant and she has problems in her pregnancy, both her and the unborn child should have access to healthcare. But I'll leave it at that. But the discussion is good, and you're right. our political awareness, our consciousness is an ongoing process. It's not a you don't get to the end. We're constantly having to re-educate ourselves. Let me use that phrase. Constantly having to re-educate ourselves. Okay, that's me finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Alma. Sawindok? Sawindok? Okay, Sister Grace? Oh, sorry.
The
Go ahead.
whole government setup has been turned into private institutions, and it's because we have allowed that to happen. It will change only when we want the change, and we are not ready for the change. 5 people cannot rule 50 million people, and the 50 million people are just quiet like that. They are happy with the status quo. Let it continue. Let the governments continue to milk us and to exploit us and to do anything as they want, because we want it to happen that way.
Okay, Sister Chisomo?
Yeah, these countries are run by certain individuals who have taken a hold on the whole system. It's going to take, I don't know who to break that system. And it's mostly these unelected individuals, because politicians come and go, but nothing changes because of these unelected officers that are running the show. So when a minister comes who has no clue of what's been happening, they are the ones who informs him how things are run and whatever. And from my understanding, they give them money from the onset to keep them quiet, and that if they don't follow what the elected person is dictating, they're gonna cause problems for them. So us as people from outside, watching from outside, individuals, the villages you're talking about, the urban centers, we have no access to these people, to that system. So it's very difficult to even when you start talking, that they will silence you. And like I said, this vice president, because he's been an activist almost all his life. He only came into politics the last 5 or 10 years. And he knows how to communicate with the village people. Everybody knows him because he's a comic. He does plays. He does films. He's been in the NGO industry, and everybody knows him because he works mainly with the village people and the underprivileged. So everybody knows him. So he's gaining ground that way, and he knows how to communicate with them and how to explain to them what the government ought to be doing for them, and what it's doing instead. That's why he keeps saying there are thieves in these governments. That's why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. I was just reading something just before I came that somebody has summoned him to go to court and explain himself or whatever. So they've now again arrested him, trying to silence him. So that's what goes on. Somebody comes up, they silence them, they and like they're saying to him, where are you getting your resources? Because he goes to villages. In fact, the issue was, how can a vice president be going to meet villagers on one-to-one? Is that not a prime minister's job? Is not the, but if the prime ministers are not doing it, so he thought he should go and do it himself and expose them. So yeah, it's a cat and mouse game, and I don't know. At the moment, I don't know what the solution is. I really don't know.
Okay. Brother the King.
Yeah, for me,
The King?
hello. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes.
So for me, I would say that we as an individual should serve as a vanguard wherever we find ourselves within the community, and try as much as possible because the very way they used to get us into this situation, we should also use the same situation to educate ourselves. The missionaries, they send people all over the corner of the world to spread a good message. So we have to also use that tactics. Not only that, but also find other ways and means to, get to our people, reach them anyway, anyhow, so that eventually we will get there. Right now, the resources are always there. What is holding most of our people back? So I would say we should start with that for the meantime.
Thank you. I think some of the things we do read here are not new. But I think by reading them, sometimes it points us back to what we already see as a reality in the community. I will say that this session only makes us to be more informed. And because we are agents of change, it is very important for us to get that information and to understand what really goes on and what makes it wrong, so that we can actually point to the people directly what is really wrong. Because we are the agent of change, and we must know the change we want before we go out. The biggest problem that majority of Africans are not ready even to study the problem. They want to go make the change. But you ask them, how deep do you understand the problem? They don't. We know IMF is wrong, yes, but how deep do you understand how they operate? So sometimes these sessions open up our mind and even let us know what's really going on. This is the level of consciousness. And we must build our consciousness because the entire Africa is looking at us to help conscientize the rest of the population. So thank you very much. And I'll say that let's try next time to meet a bit earlier so that we can cover more on this. We have missed these sessions twice, but I hope moving forward, you can be able to manage to have these sessions as well, so that we cover more and also share more. And when these sessions are ready, also share so that we can also find a way to reach out to majority of Africans. But don't get tired getting information, because the information is what makes you be proper, equipped, and ready. But don't also just die with the information. Help pass it and share it, because in that way, you can also conscientize others. So thank you very much for this session. Brother The King, maybe probably love to talk later on some few things that you are saying, maybe after this, and see how we can try to look on how you can get what you require. So Sir Windog, Sister Chisomo, and Sister Ama, I really appreciate you. We have been used to have few of us, but the good thing is that we've never stopped. We keep going. So thank you very much for this time, and may you have all a lovely evening from wherever you are. Let's meet again next Sunday for this Sunday reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.